Okay, so we in the last class we made sure that we understand normal substitution in type 1, then we worked upon type 2, type 3 simultaneous, type 4 we worked upon substituting t in place of x and then value of what? 10. Then we made sure that we understand type 5 when we have both the variables as your normal x and the value as well. Then we worked upon two equations equal to where we substituted ft and h3. We worked upon type number 6. Then we worked upon type 7. Type 7 may we substituted normal a plus 3 equation. Now, this was the normal formation that we did in all the types. Let's just work upon type 8. We are starting off with lecture number 2, functions, lecture 2, right? So we start off with what? Type number 8. Type 8. So how can the question come to us? Question can be K fx is equal to by 6x square minus x plus 3. And you will be told K find the value of x for which fx equal to 5. अब यहां नोट करें कि आपके पास इस क्वेश्चन में क्या बोल दिए एफ एक्स इज इक्वल टू 6x माइनस एक्स प्लस 3. ये आपको एफ एक्स की वैल्यू दे दी गई है, राइट? एंड आपको बोल दिया 6x माइनस एक्स प्लस 3. एफ एक्स की वैल्यू क्या है? एफ एक्स इज इक्वल टू व्हाट? 5. जब एफ एक्स इक्वल टू 5 है तो इसका मतलब ये इक्वेशन की वैल्यू आ गई, ये एक्स की वैल्यू नहीं है. ये किसकी वैल्यू है? इक्वेशन की वैल्यू. अब इक्वेशन क्या है? 6x माइनस एक्स, 6x स्क्वायर माइनस एक्स प्लस 3. दैट मीन्स इस पूरी की वैल्यू क्या है? 5. which means fx, the entire fx can be substituted with what? 5. तो जब हम इसको सॉल्व करेंगे, हम इसको सॉल्व करने के लिए we'll write down what fx is equal to 6x square minus x plus 3, and this fx will be changed to what? 5. This fx will be changed to what? 5. और ये बन जाएगा 6x square minus x plus 3. दैट मीन कंप्लीट एफ एक्स की जगह पे 5 क्या हो गया? सब्सटीट्यूट हो गया. हम इसको सॉल्व करेंगे 6x स्क्वायर माइनस एक्स प्लस 3. जब हमारा ये प्लस 5 इफ इट मूव्स ऑन द राइट हैंड साइड, ठीक है, ये प्लस 5 जब राइट हैंड साइड पे मूव होगा, सो प्लस 5 विल बी व्हाट? -5. प्लस 5 विल बी व्हाट? -5. एंड एट दिस पॉइंट यहाँ पे 0 आ जाएगा. सो if we write down, this would be what? -5, and we'll end up 0 on one side because the entire value has been shifted on the other side. So this value will be 6x square minus x minus 2 equal to 0. So this becomes your equation. Now, when we know that we have equation of what? 6x square minus x minus 2 equal to 0, ये हमारे पास क्या बन गई? This is your quadratic equation. ये हमारे पास क्या बनी? क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन, जो कि होती है ए एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस बी एक्स प्लस सी इक्वल टू 0 की फॉर्म में. जब हमारे पास क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन आ गई, सो द फॉर्मेशन और टू सॉल्व द क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन वी यूज नंबर 1 मिडिल टर्म ब्रेकिंग, और वी यूज व्हाट? क्वाड्रेटिक फॉर्मूला. बट नॉर्मली in paper 1, your middle term breaking will be used. If it's a paper 2 question, you will be using what? Quadratic formula if there is no middle term, or if there is no term that can be broken into. Now let's say कि भाई how do we solve this? The first thing is कि आप ये जो 6 है इस 6 को उसको सॉल्व करने के लिए आप मल्टीप्लाई कर देते हो किससे, इस वैल्यू से जो आखिरी वाली वैल्यू होती है. दैट मीन योर ए will be multiplied to what, C. So if we just see that A is being multiplied by C, so 6 into 2 becomes what, 12. 6 into 2 becomes what, 12. फिर हम क्या करते हैं, we take the factors of this 12. We take the factors of this 12 कि किस किस टेबल में आता है. So we start off with 1, 1 12 we get 12, 2 6 we get 12, and obviously we get 3 and 4, we get what, 12, right? We get 3 and 4, we get 12. So we have 3 and 4. तो फैक्टर आगे 1 12 से 12 मिलता है, 2 6 से मेरे पास 12 मिलता है, 3 और 4 से क्या मिलता है, 12 मिलता है. तो मैं आगे जब मुझे पता है कि यहाँ पे मुझे क्या चाहिए, -1, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है ना, क्योंकि प्लस माइनस करके मुझे क्या चाहिए, -1. एक्स के साथ जो वैल्यू होती है, जो बी चाहिए होता है. सो 1 and 12 प्लस माइनस करके कैन नॉट गिव मी व्हाट, -1. 2 and 6 कैन नॉट गिव मी 1. ओनली 3 and 4 कैन गिव मी 1. Only 3 and 4 can give me 1. So if we just solve this down, and we solve this down as middle term breaking means breaking the middle term. Since I need to have minus x, so I keep 3 और 4 में से बड़ा नंबर क्या हो जाएगा, माइनस. So -4x plus 3x minus 2 equal to 0. -2 equal to what, 0. Why did we do this? Because you need to understand, -4 minus 3 gives me what, -7. So we don't need -7, right? We need what, -4 plus 3, minus plus minus. So 4 minus 3 is what, 1. Sign of the greater number, minus. So we need what, -1. So that is the reason we took what, -4 plus 3. So solving down, let's just say that we need to take common between the first two values, common between the last two values. In the first two values, common can be taken from the number 6 and 4. The common between them is what, 2. Common between these two is what, 2. So we take 2 as common, and the variable is x as common, right? So what are we left with? We are left with what, 3x minus 2. We are left with what, 3x minus 2. Remember that since 2 is taken out, so 6 divided by 2 is 3. And x square, we get x out, so x is remaining. From 4x, the x comes out completely because this is power 1. And 4 divided by 2 is what, 2. So we took out the common as what, 2x. From here, can you see there is no common in 3x minus 2? So when there is no common, we write down what, 1. We write down as +1, and the remaining value is 3x minus 2 equal to what, 0. 3x minus 2 equal to what, 0. So once we know that the value that we have will give me the factor, that means k, ये देखो ये factors बन गए, 3x minus 2, 3x minus 2, ये same bracket है. तो ये हम 3x minus 2 किसके साथ इक्वेट कर देंगे, 0 के साथ इक्वेट कर देंगे. तो आंसर क्या हो जाएगा, एक आंसर हो जाएगा 3x minus 2 equal to 0. दूसरा क्या हो जाएगा, ये 2x है और ये +1 है, ये इक्वेट हो जाएगा किसके साथ, 0 के साथ. तो दैट मीन दिस वुड बी 2x plus 1 equal to 0. You have two equations. Your first equation will be -2 goes on the other side, becomes 2. This 3 is being multiplied by x. So 3 multiplied होता है तो यहाँ आके divide हो जाएगा. It will be divided on the other side. Whereas if we have 2x plus 1, this will be 2x minus 1, and x will be what, -1 upon 2. So the two answers that we got were x is equal to what, 2 upon 3, and x is equal to what, -1. And we used what, middle term breaking to get the answer equations so that we can have the values. I hope that it is clear. Now this was type 8 with one example of 6x square minus x plus 3. Let's do another example of this so that we know how to solve what, normal values of what, quadratic. Let's just say that we have, the question is gx is equal to x square plus 1. And the question says g m minus 3 is equal to 17. बेटा सॉल्व करो मोबाइल साइड में हाँ हाँ इसको आता है सब Now the question says that we have gx is equal to what? X square plus 1 and g m minus 3 is equal to what? 17. So what you need to understand is this m minus 3 is basically the value of x. So we can substitute m minus 3 in this x and we can write down m minus 3 in this x as well, right? So let's just write down g x is equal to x square plus 1. This was your question. और जो आपकी वैल्यू है वो आ जाएगी x के अंदर m minus 3. We substituted what? M minus 3 in place of what? X. So we substitute what? M minus 3 whole square plus 1. Right? So we substituted m minus 3 in this square as well. Because function, whenever you have value of x, that value of x represents the x value. Now, since we know that m minus 3 value was what? 17. This value was what? 70. This entire equation can be written down as what? 17. So this entire equation can be written down as what? 17. So 17 will be the answer for this. So we write down what? 17 is equal to m minus 3 whole square plus 1. So can we just open this now? If we write down 17 is equal to, this thing needs to be opened as what? Identity. This will be opened as m square minus 6m plus 9 plus 1. Remember this, that you had m minus 3 whole square, right? So a square minus 2ab plus what? B square. Formula will be used. So this is a and this becomes what? B. So this is what? M square minus 2 into m is 2 into m is 2m. 2m into 3 becomes what? 6m. And minus 3 square will be what? 9. So this will be your answer for this bracket. So if we just continue using the values, what we can do is we can solve this. So this would be m square minus 6m plus 9 plus 1 minus 17 equal to what? 0. So what we can have is we can have value of m square minus 6m minus 7 equal to 0. Again, we have a quadratic what? Equation. And quadratic equation will be used for middle term breaking. This will be multiplied with what? A multiplied by C. So A is what? 1. 1 into 7 is what? 7. 7 is a prime number. So 7 किसकी टेबल में आता है? 1 की टेबल में ही आता है and 7 की टेबल में आता है. So 1 7 is basically 7. So how we gonna get minus 6? Minus 7 m plus m will give me what? Minus 6m. Because sign of the greater number is needed, right? So if we just open this, we open this as m square minus 7m plus m minus 7 equal to what? 0. Right? So considering this, let's just say we need to take common from these two numbers m and m minus 7. And we need to take common from these two numbers, that will be plus 1, m minus 7. Because there was no common in the second factor, so we took what? M plus 1 as what? Common. So m plus 1 equal to 0, m minus 7 equal to 0. M value is what? Minus 1, m value is what? 7. So we got the two values of what? M, that is minus 1 and what? 7. Now let's just work with same type but easier question than this. This is normally a quadratic question and comparatively an easier question. Let's say that we have fx is equal to what? 3x minus k upon 4. And given that f11 is equal to 7, find value of k. So how we are supposed to solve this? We need to understand that in this regard, this x is basically what? The 11. So if we substitute 11 in this, so we substitute 11 in this as well. And then f11 is 7. So when you have 11, this entire thing will be taken down as what? 7. So we can find out value of what? K. So knowing this, let's just solve to get the value. So fx is equal to 3x minus k upon 4. So this would be f11 is equal to 311 minus k upon 4. f11 is what? 4. f11 is equal to what? 7. So let's just say this is 7. 33 minus k upon what? 4. 7 being divided, it will be multiplied on the other side. This will be 28. And plus 33 will be negative on the other side. So this should be negative 5 is equal to negative k. Value of k becomes what? K will be 5. Value of k will be what? 5. So anytime when you are solving this, you need to find out the value of k. Now let's just work upon the concept of inverse. Right? The concept of inverse. This thing is complete different thing than the substitution. Now, number one, what exactly is inverse? You should be knowing that it is 1-to-1 function. What is inverse? It is 1-to-1 function. What does 1-to-1 function mean? If let's say this is x and this is y, and I draw a straight line, if this is value of x, with a straight line I get one value of y. So that means 1-to-1 function. That means inverse is possible when you have what? 1-to-1 function. How is the question asked? Let's say fx is given, you will be asked to find f inverse of x. You will be asked to find f inverse of what? X. Similarly, if the question says gx, you will be asked to find what? G inverse of x. If the question says hx, you will be asked to find G inverse of x. So if this particular variable is written down as inverse, that means you will be directly taking out the inverse value. Now, the relationship of fx and f inverse of x is basically reflection underline y is equal to x. Now, this is important. That means you should be only knowing that what is the relationship between fx and f inverse of x. It is a reflection under the line y is equal to x. So that means if a coordinate is 2, 4, let's say a coordinate is 2, 4, then a inverse coordinate will be 4 and 2. So that means whenever there is a reflection, keep this thing in your mind that you can always find out your x and y, and this x will be changed to what? Y, and this y will be changed to x. That means coordinates are interchanged. coordinates are interchanged. Now, with the concept, you should also know that this domain of x, which is the x value, becomes the range of what A inverse of x, and the range of A becomes the domain of A inverse of x. That means your x becomes y, domain becomes range, and the range becomes domain. That means y becomes x. So anytime whenever you have the fx or f inverse x concept, you should know that with f, if you have 2 and 4, then eventually you will have 4 and 2 for what? F inverse of x. Now, this is not asked generally, but this is for the information for you guys to know that what exactly is fx and f inverse of x. Now, there are 3 steps when we talk about inverse. There are 3 steps. How do we take out inverse? Let's say we have 3 steps for that. And the 3 steps are: number 1, change fx to y. Your first step says change fx to y. Your second step will say make x the subject. Make x the subject. Number 3, change x to f inverse of x and y to x. Now, this is going to happen in the same step. You can't eventually change. This is going to happen in the same step. So remember this thing that number 1, fx to be changed to what? Y. Your x to be the subject. And then the third step says x to f inverse of x and y to x. If the question is of gx, you'll convert gx to y. And then x will be converted to what? G inverse of x. So it depends upon question to question, but the official steps are fx to y, make x the subject, change x to f inverse of x, and y to what? X. Let's just take down as an example of this. Let's say that we have fx is equal to 2x plus 3. Fx is equal to what? 2x plus 3. Now, if I want to find out the inverse, the question will tell me find inverse. It will say part 1, f inverse of x. So, for this, we'll be following down these steps. Number 1, fx is equal to 2x plus 3. Your first step will be, this fx will be changed to what? Y. Apart from that, everything will be same. Then what you need to do is you need to make x the subject. For subject, plus 3 will go on the other side. 2 is being multiplied, it will go divided, right? But you can't divide it until you have a single number here. So plus 3 goes on the other side before you divide. So first plus 3 becomes minus 3, and then this multiply will become what? Divide. So this will become what? This will become y minus 3 upon 2, and this will become what? X. Your x becomes what? Subject. This was your first step. Fx is changed to what? Y. Second step is x the subject. Third step, which is the most crucial step, and you need to do the 2 things in the same step, or else it will be wrong. Your x will be converted to what? F inverse of x. x किस में convert हो जाएगा? F inverse of x. और ये y है ना, ये हम किस में convert करेंगे? We'll convert it into x. Why do we convert this into x? क्योंकि देखें, if we convert x to f inverse, so here we have x. So the equation is of x. We can't have what? Y. So we have to convert this y to what? X. Because if we have f inverse of x, then in f inverse of x, you need to have what? X. You can't have the value of what? Y. So this is what? This is basically the inverse step. when we solve inverse, we go through what? We say change fx to y, make x the subject, change x to f inverse of x, and what? Y to x. This is going to be in one step, and normally students make mistake here. Okay, let's just solve this another example, that is gx is equal to 4x plus 3 and g inverse of x. तो क्या करेंगे जी, जी एक्स इज इक्वल टू 4x प्लस 3 है, तो ये जो जी एक्स है ये किस में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा? y में। 4x प्लस 3, हमें बनाने x को सब्जेक्ट, सो प्लस 3 मूव्स ऑन द अदर साइड बिकॉज व्हाट? y minus 3, 4x being multiplied, it will be divided on the other side, so x is the subject. Now in this regard, when we have x as subject, we'll change x to what? G inverse of x. Do not draw these arrows, I'm just drawing the arrows for you guys. And this y will be changed to what? X. So remember that this x will be converted to what? G inverse of x, and this y will be converted to what? X. Because since you have x in G inverse of x, so you can't have what? Y. You need to convert your y to what? X. So the answer for G inverse of x is x minus 3 upon what? 4. Another example question can be gx is equal to what? 8 minus 3x upon 2. Right? And then your first part says g minus 2, value of g minus 2. And the second part says g inverse of x. Again, the question says gx is equal to 8 minus 3x upon 2. Part 1, the question what? G inverse of g minus 2. And part 2 says g inverse of x. Okay, ji, let's just now solve this question. Gx is equal to 8 minus 3x upon 2. Part 1 is g minus 2, right? So part 1 says g minus 2. So gx is equal to 8 minus 3x upon 2. So if it says g minus 2, remember that where did this minus 2, where can we use this minus 2? In this x and in this x, because it is inside the bracket. So it will be substituted in x. So we write this thing down as 8 minus 3 minus 2 upon 2. So g minus 2 is equal to 8. Minus minus becomes plus. 3 to the becomes 6 upon what? 2. So g minus 2, 6 plus 8 becomes what? 14 upon 2. So the value of g minus 2 becomes what? 7. So this is your answer for the first part. Now, part 2, the question is very clear. The question wants us to find out the g inverse of x. So, part 2, if the question is gx is equal to 8 minus 3x upon 2, the first step that we continue will be this gx will be changed to what? Y. 8 minus 3x upon 2. Since we need to make x the subject, so what we can do is, we as this 2 being divided here, it should be multiplied. So it will be what? 2y. So we write down this as what? 2y equal to 8 minus 3x. 2y is equal to 8 minus 3. We need to make x the subject. Just keep this thing in your mind. So let's just say that we can shift 3x, because I can change negative to what? Positive. And 8 minus 2y. My negative 3x becomes positive, and this positive 2y becomes what? Negative on the other side. I shifted negative 3x to make it what? Positive. Since I need to make x the subject, ये जो 3 है, उधर जाके it will be what? divided, this would be divided on the other side. जो 3 मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है उधर जाके क्या हो गया, डिवाइड. तो इस तरीके से हमारा एक सब्जेक्ट बन गया. लेट्स जस्ट रिपीट दिस 2 was multiplied by y, multiply. Since I know that minus 3x है तो इसको मैं इधर ले गया और 2x को मैं इधर ले गया. तो 3x is equal to 8 minus 2y. तो माइनस 3x पॉजिटिव हो गया, प्लस 2y नेगेटिव हो गया. ये 3 जो मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है उधर जाके क्या हो गया, डिवाइड. तो अब व्हाट वी कैन डू इज दिस x कैन बी चेंज टू व्हाट, g inverse of x, right? And the y can be changed to what, x. Remember this, that this x will be changed to what, g inverse of x, and this y will be changed to what, x. This needs to be done in the same step because you can't have y when you have x and g inverse of x. Now this is your example number 2. Fx is equal to 2x plus 3 upon 5x, and the question says f inverse of what, x. So what you need to do is that we need to solve this. We can say that fx is equal to 2x plus 3 upon what, 5x. This is your question. We need to change this fx to what, y. This would be 2x plus 3 upon what, 5x. The second step says make x the subject. So how many x we have? 2x. Since we have 2x, this 5x will be multiplied with what, y. So when we multiply this will become 5xy is equal to 2x plus 3. To make x the subject, you need to have 1x. So what we do is we'll change 2x, that is positive 2x, it will be what, negative 2x on the other side, and you're left with what, 3. So what we can do is we can make x the subject. So this would be 5y minus 2 is equal to what, 3. Because obviously what we did here was that 2x moved on the left hand side becomes what, negative 2, and then we see that we have 2x, but to make x the subject we need to have 1. So we took common. So to have common we need to have x on one side, एक ही side पे होना चाहिए. तो अगर x को मैं common लेता हूँ तो बचा क्या, 5y and minus 2. Now considering this 5y minus 2 will go on the other side, get divided. तो हम क्या करेंगे जी, जो x होता है वो कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा f इनवर्स ऑफ x में, और जो y होगा वो कन्वर्ट होगा किस में, x में. तो ये क्वेश्चन क्या बन जाएगा, f इनवर्स ऑफ x 3 upon what, 5 minus 5x minus 2, and this will be your answer for what, f inverse of what, x, for example number 2. Example number 3 for inverse. Example number 3. Question says that we have fx is equal to 2x minus 9. Part 1 says f minus 3 upon 4. And part 2 says f inverse of 3. Now, what we need to understand is that fx, this value, x is what? Minus 3 upon 4. So if we write down minus 3 upon 4 here, so what we do is we write down minus 3 upon 4 here as well. Minus 9. So what we see is this 2 can be cancelled out with this. So we end up having what? Minus 3 upon 2 minus 9. Minus 3 upon 2 minus 9. So minus 3 upon 2 minus 9. We take down the LCM, we multiply 2 by 9 becomes what? Minus 18 upon what? 2. So this will be what? Minus 21 upon what? 2. So this is the value of minus 3 upon 4. The value of minus 3 upon 4 will be minus 21 upon 2. Right? Then in part 2, the question says f inverse of 3. Now remember, since this is f inverse, so we need to change this fx to f inverse first. अगर f इनवर्स 3 है तो पहले आप एफ एक्स को किस में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, f इनवर्स में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, तब हम उसमें सब्स्टिट्यूट करेंगे। ठीक है जी। तो एफ एक्स क्या है, 2x-9। ठीक है जी। एंड ये जो एफ एक्स है ये किस में कन्वर्ट हो गया, y में। 2x-9, -9 इधर जाके प्लस हो गया, 2 डिवाइड हो गया, x सब्जेक्ट बन गया आपका भाई। -9, रिमेंबर दिस -9 मूव ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड बिकम पॉजिटिव, 2 मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा था तो क्या हो गया, डिवाइड हो गया, x बच गया। नाउ टू कन्वर्ट दिस वुड बी f इनवर्स ऑफ x एंड y विल कन्वर्ट टू व्हाट, x अपॉन 2। वैल्यू क्या है हमारी, हमारी वैल्यू है f इनवर्स ऑफ 3 चाहिए। तो 3 इधर आ गया, +9/2, 12/2 कितना हो जाएगा जी, 6। तो इसका मतलब f इनवर्स 3 की वैल्यू क्या आ गई, 6। तो पार्ट 2 आंसर, दो एग्जाम्पल, दो पार्ट थे इसके। -3/4 का आंसर आ गया -21/2। एंड माइनस एफ इनवर्स 3 के लिए पहले हमने एफ इनवर्स निकाला एंड फिर उसमें सब्स्टिट्यूट किया 3, जब एक्स में डाला तो उसके एक्स में भी डालना पड़ गया। तो 9 + 3 बिकम्स 12, 12/2 बिकम्स व्हाट, 6। एग्जाम्पल नंबर 4। एग्जाम्पल नंबर 4, let's say that fx is equal to 5 minus x upon x. Part 1 says f 1/2 and part 2 says f inverse of x. Now generally this is 1 mark question and this is a 2 mark question. ठीक है जी। So let's just solve part 1. Let's say that we have fx. Now remember this thing, ये जो है ना ऑलरेडी फ्रैक्शन में और ये भी फ्रैक्शन में और दोनों जगह x है, तो इसको हम दूसरे डिवीजन के स्टाइल से हम लिख देते हैं। और दूसरा डिवीजन का स्टाइल क्या होता है, एफ एक्स इक्वल टू, ये लिख सकते हैं 5 - x को ब्रैकेट में लिखा, तो जो नीचे डिवाइड था ना तो इसको हम पुराने जमाने के डिवीजन के साइन से लिख देते हैं x। ठीक है, 5 - x, ये चीज मेरे पास क्या आ गई, ये बन गई। एंड जो x था डिवाइड हो रहा था ये, तो डिवीजन का साइन पुराना यूज कर लिया बिकॉज देयर वाज अ फ्रैक्शन, राइट। तो अब हम यूज कर सकते हैं क्या, f 1/2 आसानी से। तो दिस वुड बी 5 - 1/2 ब्रैकेट divided by 1/2. This will be, LCM will be 10 minus 1/2, right? Divided by 1/2. This will be 9/2 multiply by 2/1. So 2 and 2 is cancelled. So f 1/2 answer will become what, 9. This will be what, part 1। ठीक है जी। पुराने डिवीजन के साइन में जब रेसिप्रोकल के डिवीजन को चेंज कर दिया, राइट। रिमेंबर व्हेनेवर यू रेसिप्रोकल राइट हैंड साइड फ्रैक्शन चेंजेस टू न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर, डिनोमिनेटर becomes numerator, numerator becomes what, denominator। in part 2 it says f inverse, so fx is equal to 5 minus x upon x। we make sure that fx is what, changed to y, and we see that we have 2x here. So this will become xy is equal to 5 minus x, xy plus x equal to what, 5. Let's make x the subject. So this should be y plus 1 is equal to 5. Remember कि जब भी आप x कॉमन लेते हैं और पूरा x कॉमन आ गया तो इसके बाद क्या बचेगा, 1। तो ये चीज क्या हो रही है, मल्टीप्लाई हो रही है, तो वी मेक श्योर दैट वी डिवाइड ऑन द अदर साइड। तो x किस में चेंज हो जाएगा जी, f इनवर्स ऑफ x में, और y किस में चेंज हो जाएगा जी, x में। तो ये आपका क्या बन जाएगा, f इनवर्स ऑफ x। तो मेजरली हम लोग जो लेक्चर नंबर 2 है फंक्शंस का, वो हम यहीं तक रखते हैं, ठीक है, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली बात है, हम लोगों ने लेक्चर 1 कवर किया था, और लेक्चर 1 में इट वाज जस्ट द सब्स्टिट्यूशन, राइट। हमने नॉर्मली सब्स्टिट्यूशन की थी, पर आज के लेक्चर में हमने क्वाड्रेटिक सब्स्टिट्यूशन की, जिसमें वी सॉल्व डाउन द वैल्यूज, देन वी डिड व्हाट वी डिड इनवर्स, एंड देन इनवर्स के साथ साथ वी डिड सम एग्जांपल क्वेश्चन, एग्जांपल 1, एग्जांपल 2, एग्जांपल 3, एग्जांपल 4, टू मेक श्योर दैट हम लोग को ये चीज समझ आ जाए। ठीक है जी। तो दिस इज अदील जतोई।